one of the words, if you've heard me speak before, one of my favorite words is opportunity. So we thought this was a wonderful opportunity to get all of us together for a couple of reasons. Obviously, number one, the transition to self-insurance. We've moved 18,000 members from a fully insured plan to a self-insured plan. And as I hopefully regaled to you earlier, this was a long time coming. This was a huge process. This was a big thing in the works here. And as they say, the devil is always in the details, one of those cliches out there. We've somewhat learned that. I mean, getting information, Joe's information over at SCABQ, over to Express Scripts, getting his prior authorizations and stuff like that, was a huge undertaking. So hopefully we've managed that information somewhat well. So today's July 17th, we're 17 days into it. So I kind of looked at this as Y2K. I thought everybody was worried that the whole planet was going to stop. We weren't going to have prescriptions. Doctors weren't going to know who we were, but it didn't happen. So we're 17 days into it, knock on wood, and so far so good. So once again, going back to the word opportunity, we thought this was a wonderful opportunity for a few reasons. We wanted to get our participating entities together because, number one, because now that we are somewhat self-funded, we need to administrate the information going left and right. We need the information that we're talking about, our eligibility information, our biographic information. So we need that information to reside at your place, obviously. We need you to vet that information, who's coming in, who's coming off, and how we get that information over to the various vendors, whether it's medical, dental, vision, or a prescription plan, life insurance, all of those. We need to somewhat administrate or put a standard operating procedure to all of that. So that was the opportunity that was posed in front of us. And like I said, it was a great time because of the self-insurance. We needed to start managing that data a little bit better than we were managing it before. So one of the first things I want to tell you is the process that we're going over now, and I sincerely appreciate everybody's diligent effort, the IT departments, Express Scripts, Presbyterian, our staff, these IT experts over here. I sincerely appreciate their efforts on getting that information. But I got to be honest with you, it is a Band-Aid. There is a more efficient way of managing this data. And we have a system with the City of Albuquerque PeopleSoft. It is a HR system, but it is also a benefit management platform. So we do want to take all the data that we're currently grabbing through Excel spreadsheets and these FTP file uploads. We do want to get all this information and put it into PeopleSoft so we don't have to go through some of the process that we're going through right now. But once again, to manage the information, we needed to apply some standard operating procedures. And so once again, that was our opportunity today. So what we're going to go over is what we put is an administrative guide. And I guess let me give a little bit of background on this. We have 17 participating entities, and some of you have been with your entity for quite some time. Some of you have been in that position for quite some time. And there's some of you who haven't been in that position more than a couple of weeks because we've had to go out there and meet with you. So the introduction of benefits, what's supposed to go on, it's somewhat critical to us. And like I said, being self-funded now, we want to make sure everybody is treated equally across the board. So if you do get a new employee, we want to make sure that you sit down with that employee, present them all the benefit information that we've put together for you. We want to make sure that information is captured either electronically or how you do it at your system, sent into our system, and sent over to the carriers with all the proper information. So once again, we needed to put some rhyme and reason to all of that here. So we're going to go over that today. What our expectations are for all of our participating entities, but what the expectations are from our office as well. So this is a good time, a good opportunity for you all to help us go through that. And so as Linda said, we're going to videotape this, and so it isn't chiseled in stone, as they say. I think everybody has a copy of the administrative guide, but let me say this, as we're going through this and we get to section 7 and we say, well, you know what, maybe we could better word it this way or that way, we still have that opportunity. We'll take the notes here, we'll make those changes, and we'll send you the final electronic copy. So you will have the best version. So you're somewhat of our guinea pigs. This is our first step into really group administration at this level. So I appreciate everybody's efforts. Other housekeeping financial notes. Tanya was buzzing in my ear before I walked out the door. There are 7 entities, and I don't have them off the top of my head, but 7 entities have not signed their previous entity agreement. So we really need to get those in place right away. And I'll make sure the account managers know who they are, and they'll reach out to you shortly. But we need to, the entity agreements, what else? The entity agreements, and just some acknowledgement that you're aware of what's going on, the 834 process, the FTP process, things like that. Making sure that you're aware of that. We are going to, the team, I say we, I mean the royal we, they are going to go visit with you shortly, just to make sure that everybody is on the same page with this. So, and if you do have any questions, now's the time to bring them up. So, any questions for me? Okay. Like I said, going self-funded, credit to you all there. Just off the top of my head, going to prescriptions. That was our newest vendor, and to move all that data over to that and get things processed, and so people were showing up at the pharmacy on July 1st. They were trying to pick up their needed medications. From what the reports we have, 93% of all of our prescriptions are being filed and processed and approved right now. So that's pretty remarkable. So you did a good job. So thank you to all of you.
As Mark said, we are venturing into self-funding, and congratulations to everybody involved in the process. This has been at least 11 years in the making. Mr. Seitz has been working towards this for quite a while and has finally gotten us across the finish line of self-funding. This week we paid our first claims through Presbyterian. We funded our own claims for the first time in city history, so congratulations to the city and the participating entities for making that happen. I know that we have been bullies, to say the least, about getting data from you and information from you and how we get it from you, and there's a reason for that. We needed to make sure that we had the funding in place to fund those claims this past week. So thank you very, very much for your patience and your willingness to participate in this process with us. In addition to asking you to provide us with information, we want to make sure that we are a resource for your office. Being self-funded means we have to be extremely engaged in the process of our medical plan and how our medical plan works and who does what through our TPAs and our pharmacy benefit manager. And that's going to be new for you. And we want to make sure that we are walking you through the process. So we want to be your assistance in this process. And as Mark said, we, the royal we, our specialists, your account managers, will be available to you. They're going to meet with you. They're going to go through processes with you and help you every step of the way. So one of the big changes that occurred this year was the addition of Express Scripts. And the addition of Express Scripts created a number of changes. One of those changes was the change to our formulary, which means what medications are covered and what medications aren't. And as we went through the RFP process, we did our very, very best to make sure that we were trying to mirror what Presbyterian had already done. And Presbyterian did a great job for us. But we wanted to make sure that we were creating as little change as possible, but knowing that we were going to make a change. So 90% of the medications on our formulary were matched by Express Scripts, which is good if you're in the 90% category. If you're in the 10% category, you're not so happy. So we have that change. In addition to that change, Express Scripts does things a little bit differently than what Presbyterian did, in that they have different prior authorization requirements, so that's a change for our employees as well. And again, if you're in that 10% category, you're not so happy. So you might be getting some noise from your employees, and we want to make sure that Express Scripts is available and can assist you. What we'd like you to do is work through those processes with your account manager at the city. We want to know what you're experiencing. We don't want you going direct to Express Scripts and bypassing us and us not knowing what is happening. We want to have our finger on the pulse. So please, if you experience any difficulties on pharmacy with your employees, go through Lori and Shannon, and we'll help you through that process. So, before we get started with the admin guide, Express Scripts has an early flight today. So we're gonna let her come up, her being Amy Williams with Express Scripts, we're gonna let her come up and do the first presentation before we get into the admin guide. And it's probably a good thing because this is the biggest change that we've made thus far as a vendor. So it's probably good for you to hear about these changes while it's fresh and you're bright and early before we start bombarding you with the admin guide. So I'm gonna ask Amy to come up and do some discussion.
I will be around though for a while. I'm gonna stick around here and through the break, so feel free to pick my brain during the break too if you'd like to. But really, all in all, we're really happy to be here. We're happy to start that relationship with the city and serve all of your members. And like Tim shared, we have been working so closely with them and Presbyterian to try to make a really smooth transition over to Express Scripts for your members. And so by doing that, we have been looking at claims history from Presbyterian for your members, and we really looked at that and dug into that to look at any changes that the members would experience. That being any changes in formulary status, and also maybe around specialty medications and coverage. And so we work closely with the city to kind of help those members. Hopefully you've experienced that as well, that kind of help lead them, guide them into Express Scripts and to our processes, and get them in touch with the right people to get the right authorizations on file. So the city has allowed some transition time to allow them time to work with a clinical review if that's needed, or a new prescription that might be needed to get to a Credo specialty pharmacy or a mail order. And so that's really great. And so it allows us some time to get used to the new processes. So we've had that put in place for them. Some other things I want to touch on here is ID cards. So that's definitely something new for members, is they have a new ID card for prescriptions that they need to bring to their pharmacy. They need to make sure they update their retail pharmacy, their system, so that we don't see rejections and they don't see any sort of hassle with receiving the needed medications. So that is definitely a new thing for members. I know there's been notices that have gone out, so if members did not receive a welcome kit, we have backup plans. We have a temporary ID card that can be used so that there's no delay in getting medications. And also working through your account manager, we're able to kind of check into the status of welcome kits and what maybe held that up. So hopefully you haven't seen too many examples of that. One thing with ID cards too I want to touch on is we've had a question about why we only print subscribers on ID cards. I've heard that a couple times come through the city to us, so I just thought I'd mention it here. It really is Express Scripts standard to have just the subscriber printed on the ID card for family coverage. And that is just for various reasons. If there's change in dependence, if an older dependent kind of falls off the benefit, if there is a newborn baby, if there's split family and change in dependence, it just kind of helps the city to, keep track of just one ID card that can be used for the whole family. Not having to replace that, update that for the membership. It's really a smoother process. And so hopefully your members aren't experiencing any disruption there. The retail pharmacy should be well aware of that and take the ID card to update their system. Moving over to Express Scripts mail order and to a Credo specialty pharmacy, I want to make sure that everybody knows that we have what's called a therapeutic resource center. And so we have specialists that are trained, nurses, pharmacists, clinicians, or what have you, for those members that have an ongoing condition or are new to therapy and have questions, have concerns. We have these specialists on hand to answer any questions they have. And what's great about that is that members don't feel pressured to kind of stop the conversation if they're, for example, at the retail pharmacy in line and talking to a pharmacist. They don't feel, that their information is being shared with who's behind them in line. So that's a great resource that I want to make sure that everybody knows is available. Members would call into the regular customer service line that's on the back of the ID card, And through customer service, they can reach out to one of those specialists and get any questions they have or concerns they have answered. So that's a great thing that I want to make sure that members know that we have available to them. With the move over to Express Scripts,
Can you give an example of what you're talking about?
for the therapeutic resource centers?
Yeah.
Sure. I know some of that is, and I can kind of let you know about proactive outreach. So if they're for a specialty medication user, let's say that they are new to therapy and we capture that prescription in through a Credo. A lot of times we're able to kind of track and look at their prescription history. And if we see there might be a drug interaction with their new to therapy and with a drug that they are taking currently at another pharmacy, we'll make proactive outreach to that member, talk through it with them. Really, it's just kind of a safety step as well, where we're able to reach out to them to guide them through. But also, let's say a member is new to therapy and they are concerned about how to administer a medication, a self-administered drug. We're able to talk them through that as well. So there's a couple examples for you. Also, with the move to Express Scripts, like we're saying, we're trying to mirror what the past coverage was as closely as possible. There are, of course, some changes, one of which is for maintenance medications. And with those, they're able to get filled through, of course, our mail order pharmacy for that 3-month supply. But also what the city has put in place is for members to obtain those from retail if they would like to. If they'd like to choose a local pharmacy. In order to get that 3-month fill, you need to go to a Walgreens. And that's chosen due to the amount of locations available and convenience there that members can choose to go to Walgreens or use home delivery for those maintenance medications. We did a lot of education about that during open enrollment meetings, so hopefully that helped. And then also through that program, we have some communication trigger letters that go out to members. For example, if they filled a maintenance medication at the retail pharmacy for a 30-day supply only, we would trigger out that outreach, that letter to the member saying, hey, heads up, you need to move over to a 90-day supply at Walgreens or home delivery. So they have time to make that move. So that is one change that has gone in place, and hopefully the education the city's done in Express Scripts, that members have been receptive of that and kind of know the process. Let's see here. Other things I want to just touch on here is, of course, we have the open enrollment site, just kind of some tools for members I thought I'd touch on quick. We have our open enrollment website that I'm sure all of you have been made aware of, that is always running. So if members, if there are maybe new members that come on board and want to use that resource, that's always there. It shows the benefit overviews and some helpful guides, like our formulary, abbreviated formulary listing, formulary exclusions, preferred alternatives, things like that that are very helpful for members. They can grab them there. Also our member website, of course. Any active member can go out and take their ID card information, register and log in online. It's a great tool. It is very user-friendly to get any information answers that they need. And then our mobile app. So it's a free download as well for the mobile app, virtual ID card, and then a lot of the same functions as the member website. So I thought I'd touch on some of those big key things with moving to Express Scripts. And again, we're really happy to be on board and start kind of this journey with you guys. And like Tim said, if you have any questions that come through from your membership that our customer service is not able to answer, going through their account manager, they can reach out directly to me or other resources that they might have at Express Scripts to get them the answers quickly. So we just want to make sure that your members are getting the best service possible. So please let the city know, your account manager. Yeah.
One of our main goals is to make sure that we convey to everyone what our responsibilities are and the expectations and responsibilities of what you guys have. The city of Albuquerque is responsible for making sure all of your employees and all of our employees have benefits. So we go through the procurement process and we make sure that any benefits that we have to offer are implemented in the best way possible. So we provide the admin guide to give direction in order to make sure that we're getting the information that we need or the information that you need. It's going to get updated. We're going to make sure that it's sent out to you regularly on any updates. Usually it's email, so please check your email. Make sure that you have the information that we're sending out, If not, reach out to us so we can send it to you in a different way. Because our process is changing and because we have so many different requirements with the change, there are times that we are going to reach out to you to go over information, schedule a meeting. We can schedule trainings. We can also take the time to do a file audit to make sure that you have all the documents that are requested and required. Make sure that you and your staff know how to operate the equipment. Make sure it's, the programs are up to date and everything that you need in order to make the process smoother for you. We can also schedule time to go out to your entities when there are events that are going on, like open enrollment or new hire events. We can kind of send information, we can go out there. We would like to get to know you guys and visit a little bit to make sure that we're doing our best for you. Now, the responsibilities that we have, or the expectations that we have for you guys, is to conduct your new hire events within about 31 days of the new hire, date, because that depends on the eligibility of the employee. At that time, you can give benefit booklets, you can give, any of the information from our vendors, you can give a lot of information at that time, and it's very important that you take the time to do that so the employee understands what coverage they have and what coverage they don't have. At that time, they can enroll their families, which is going to require documents. You have to make sure that the documents are the correct documents, uploaded in the correct way, saved on file the correct way, just in case we need to refer back to that. We can help you with understanding how to maintain your records. I mean, mostly now it's electronic, so it's not a big deal if you guys want to save them electronically or you want to do paper files. As long as they're saved in a way that is easy to check into and make sure it's correct. We also want to make sure that all the benefits are processed timely. So for late enrollments or people that come in, they didn't fill out the enrollment form, we need you guys to make sure that they get that enrollment form. They fill it out completely and make sure that it's sent to where it needs to go so they don't have a lapse in benefits or there's not any confusion. There are also some ongoing information that you will have to provide, like the open enrollment events, but in case you have employees that are on FMLA or some type of leave without absence, you need to make sure that you have a system to contact them, communicate with them regularly to ensure that they have what they need during that time. And the most important, monitor your payroll deductions, make sure that the benefits are being deducted from the payroll as required. Nothing more, nothing less. There is a second page to the entity responsibilities. We kind of touched on the documents. We need to make sure that the employees are eligible for these benefits. One way to do that is through documentation. Verifying the eligibility date, the new hire date, the open enrollment date, things like that. Help us to understand what date we are responsible for giving them coverage. What date, we need to make sure that they get their ID cards and they have access to the benefits that we provide. We will be sending out a roster with the invoice every month. You need to check that. Make sure that you're sending premium payments for the employees that you have benefits for. We send it out, and we send it out based on the information that you provide to us for the employees that you want covered. However, we need you to double check what we send you as well. It's a check system that we have to rely on each other in order to get the process implemented, properly and on time. We will also be working with some upgrades. Again, any upgrades that we do, we will be, sending out information on, so just please check for those. We would also like you to promote our better health. They can take their health assessments. We have really good programs that can be available to the entities. If there's more involvement, there may be more programs that are offered along the line, down the line somewhere. We really encourage that for all of our employees and yours as well. Now, the next slide takes us into who is eligible for these benefits. Most of you already know this. This is just a recap of the information that you may or may not already have. Hopefully you do have it. But our eligible employees are our regular employees. Their dependents, their spouses, their children. Some of you also offer coverage for domestic partners. Those, are treated as domestic partners. There's a process for that. Just keep in mind that the children, they can be covered up to age 26. So if you have a child that is going to have a birthday on August 1st, they will have coverage all the way through the end of August. Once they're of age, then they age out, and we can provide information or guidance on how that happens. Who is not eligible? Unfortunately, we can't provide coverage for our parents or our siblings or anything like, that type of relation. Grandparents, ex-spouses. Ex-spouses is a big thing. We need to be notified of, the ex-spouse. You have to take divorce decrees in order to get the correct date. That way we make sure that they're termed correctly. If they are not termed when they're supposed to be termed, the employee will be responsible for any claims that are processed after they should have been termed. Because when you get the divorce decree, if you get somebody that tells you that they got divorced 2 years ago, we have to send off the information to get them termed 2 years ago. So it kind of causes a little bit of a mess, but that's a big thing to keep watch for. The effective dates of coverage, there's some differences in it, but it's not really that hard to keep track of. When they're hired, they're covered. Unless for some entities, you may have a waiting period. For those that do have a waiting period for their employees or their new hires, please let us know. Talk to us after the meeting. We would like to get that information because it's really important for us to make sure that we are getting them covered correctly. Instead of having, come back and say, why? Why is this on this? Late, what do we have to do? Is this a correction? It saves a lot of time and makes sure that the employees get the coverage when they're supposed to. Open enrollment, we usually do open enrollment the first, or the last 3 weeks of May, somewhere around there. All of the changes that are done during open enrollment are going to be effective July 1st. So we will be having a lot more contact with you guys during that time to ensure that your open enrollment process is runs smoothly. Again, if you have times that you want us to go out during open enrollment, it's a busy time, please contact us. That way we can get stuff scheduled and make sure everybody gets the information that they need. That's what we're here for. Life events. Life events are when your employee has a baby or gets married. A divorce, those are life events. The dates on those life events are very important because we need to make sure, again, that the effective date, the coverage is done correctly. For births, we want to make sure that the baby's covered on the day they were born. For divorces, we want to make sure that the ex-spouse is termed correctly. So please keep watch for that. Make sure that you're keeping up with all of that information. It's really, really important. The next slide shows something that you guys should be familiar with as well. It's the enrollment form. I don't know that we can see this on here. Linda's going to check for us. But we've seen these enrollment forms come through. And what we ask of you is that the enrollment forms be filled out completely. We're seeing a lot of enrollment forms that are filled out with partial information or partial Social Security numbers or no Social Security numbers at all. They don't have an effective date. When you send us those enrollment forms for any changes, open enrollment, new hire, anything like that, we need that information, because if we don't have the information, we're not sure what you're requesting of us. Whether we need to cover somebody or term somebody, what coverage they want, what coverage they don't want, what they're declining, things like that. So please keep in mind that this is for medical, dental, and vision. However, it needs to be sent to the city of Albuquerque for the medical portion. And then the dental and vision, we'll have some information on that later on how to make sure that that gets entered. But please get them to fill it out completely. Help them with it. Call us if you have any questions. Now, there is a slide that shows the qualifying life events. It goes into detail with that. We kind of touched on that briefly. There is, for the entities that do offer coverage for the domestic partners, there is an attachment in your packet. It's labeled attachment 1. It's domestic partnership affidavit for employees that are requesting to cover their domestic partner. This needs to be filled out. It has to be notarized, so that means they have to do it together. There's also supporting documentation that goes along with that. There has to be 3 documents that show some type of joint ownership. A bank account, a car note, a mortgage, a lease, something like that. One other thing that I wanted to touch on with the qualifying life events is the voluntary loss of coverage. There's a lot of our employees that have their children on Medicaid. Please, let them know that when the Medicaid is no more, when the coverage has ended, they do have the option of putting them on. That is considered a life event. With the Medicaid and Medicare, they have 60 days in order to put, the dependents on their benefits. With any other life event, it's 31 days. So anything over 31 days would be a whole different process. It could be an appeal, it could be, depending on what the circumstances, like in, the different countries situation, that may be something that may take a little bit longer to work with, but we'll work with that. I just want to touch again on open enrollment. Open enrollment, like I said, usually happens in May. We're more than willing to help out. We want to make sure that our employees and your employees know that this is a time to make changes outside of a life event. A lot of them don't understand. They think it's, everything's going to be fine. They're just going to roll over everything. This is a time that we also have to make changes to the plans. So it's really important to communicate with your employees and let them know about any changes that were done. This year was a big one. We had Express Scripts. We had, a lot of other things going on. So please communicate with your employees. If you need some type of documentation or you need information, reach out to us. That way we can help you get that for them. Let's swing back and recapping what we talked about. I wanted to mention with the life events, divorce. Divorce is a big one. People have different mixed feelings, have different things going on, but it is a life event. The divorce decree is required within that 31 days. Now, it's important that it is provided to us because we have to make changes in a timely manner. Now, if that divorce decree says that the employee is responsible for providing coverage for the ex-spouse, they can do that. They just can't do it through these benefits. We can help you, get them set up with COBRA. We can help answer any questions about that, but they can't stay on their benefits. So if there is a divorce, that's going on with the employee, please make sure to communicate that with them. Okay. The next thing on the list is going to be our eligibility change procedures. This opens up the topic for our mini 834 form. Everybody has seen it by now. We've all been working with it. It is a change in work in progress. This is where you're going to want to report to us new hires, any corrections, any additions, mailing address changes, anytime a member is termed, and for open enrollment. Again, keep in mind that supporting documentation is needed for life events, birth certificates, things like that. The only thing that we need uploaded at this time for the coverage changes is the enrollment form. The enrollment form has to coincide with what the mini 834 form says. And with that, I will let Shannon talk to you guys about the mini 834 and show, I think she has a demonstration for us.
Okay, so I've been working with Presbyterian. You all have seen the mini 834. Aside from the entities who are already doing their 834s through their system, this doesn't apply to you. So yours is already automatically going over. This is for everybody else. So we've been doing the mini 834. This is our way of capturing all of your data, all of your enrollment data for your members and their dependents, us securely obtaining that and then sending that to Presbyterian. This is also how we are generating the billing for your entities. So in the past, what we've seen is the form itself is a pretty big form. A lot of fields hidden from what you can actually see. In the past week or so, we've been able to update this with Presbyterian, so now you're only seeing about 30 fields that are needing to be filled out. All of these applying directly to your members and their dependents. All of these fields are required in everything that you're doing. So if you have a new hire, if you have a change in plan, if there's a cancellation of benefits, if we're adding a dependent, so someone got married, or we're adding a child who hasn't had coverage yet, we're going to do that through this mini 834. Most of you are familiar with already. So up here we have an example. There's just a few differences here. You'll no longer see the AC. Before, what you were seeing was the AC. In the background, what you weren't seeing is there were formulas associated with that were populating a variety of different information that we were capturing and then sending off to Presbyterian. We no longer need a lot of that data. So what we have here now in column B, it's an event code, it's a reason code. So you do have the same drop-down list that you're used to. Get up here. I'm hoping this will work. Because of the format of this, you actually can't see that, but the different choices are here. So we've got a new enrollment, we've got a plan change, an address change, and then a cancellation. There's also the ability, so if there's a choice up here that you don't see, you can still type that language in the field next to that. Examples for each one of those are up here. So the first example is an enrollment, so a new hire. You hired a new person, you're going to select new enrollment, fill out their first and last name, the code for themselves. This area here is new, so this is how we are going to be billing based on tier codes. So this is column H, and I'll send all of these forms out to you via email by the end of the week so that you've got them all to refer back to. You will no longer have to utilize the old forms. These are not going to be locked up like the last ones were because we're not hiding fields anymore. So everything is open here. Nothing's happening in the background. So those forms don't need to be locked. You have a little bit more flexibility with the way the form works for you. But the codes here are actually how we are able to say, okay, this is a single person, we're going to bill you for a single person versus a family. So when you're enrolling your person, you only need to put this tier code on your employee's column line or their row. If they have a child and you put employee or employee plus child code in there on the employee and the child, it's going to bill you 2 times for that. So make sure you're only doing that for the employee themselves. So you'll see that here. Same kind of social, the member name, all of these are required fields, effective dates, and then address. Again, these are mailing addresses. So these are not home addresses. We're not concerned with that. We need to know where we're sending your claims to. We need to know where we're sending your ID cards. And so that's why we're capturing mailing address rather than home address. The next instance is a plan change. So this person has now gotten married. So they are changing their plan from employee only to employee plus spouse, and we've added on their spouse in the next column. It's a new enrollment for their spouse because this is the first time the spouse is going to be on their plan. So that's what you'll see there. I'll send you all the example as well as the blank form so that you can have that to refer to. The next column is an address change. So their plan's not changing, their dependents are not changing, but they've moved. So that's all that's changed there. You'll see in the end, their address is different now. And then the last is a cancellation. So you're filling out everything again, but here is the only time you're going to put in the termination date rather than any other fields, which is here. So we've got their effective date and their term codes. You're still going to have your drop-down list that'll show your plan and what level, whether or not your employees have enrolled in the gym. This next code is going to be a formula. This is the code that we are sending to Presbyterian that says this is what the employees want. You're not required to know what those codes mean. Again, it will automatically populate that for you. So once you have completed this, you're going to still complete your enrollment form like you've been doing. Your enrollment form should match this exactly how it does now. You're going to upload both your enrollment form and the mini 834 forms. We're asking for these on a weekly basis. So this is for all of your new hires, all of your terminations, any changes, life events, address changes that you've experienced for that week. They're all going to go on this file. If we do have corrections, so last time something happened, this time maybe it was a transposition of an address, or like Troy, we had a new hire start, we had a forward occurring enrollment, and the employment didn't work out, so he actually didn't need that coverage. Just send me an email, let me know, hey, last time this happened, this time is what it actually needs to look like. That way I'm not like, why are the effective date and the cancellation date exactly the same? And then I can let Presbyterian know. It's as simple as adding in some notes to them, giving them a call, letting their enrollment team know this is what's going on, this is why it looks a little bit odd. From there, just remember to follow the naming conventions. Your job aids for the FTP, it's like 3 steps. You save the file, you upload the file, and it's good to go. But what's happening is, Lori and I, as you know, we've divvied up these entities. So when I'm looking for certain files, or when I need to work my file, she needs to work hers, they're all in just a general box. It's easier for us when we say, okay, Bernalillo has submitted a file and I need to go look at this change and understand what's going on. If I can go in there and just see, okay, this is Bernalillo's file. So your job aid tells you, save this file year and the date that you're submitting, and then your entity name. Once you've done that, you upload it, and it's good to go. Your files are going to be uploaded here. So again, you've saved your file, you drag it up, you put your name in there so that we know who submitted it. So if we've got a question, we can reach back out to you and say, hey, on this date you submitted this file. I just have a question, or it didn't come through right, can you send that again? And then it'll show up into our repository so that we can go ahead and process the files for that week, update any billing as needs to happen. This is also hopefully a means to an end. So Mark touched a little bit on the enrollment moving forward. Right now, this is how we're going to capture this. And even after we've started to work with PeopleSoft, we may still do this in parallel. So any changes we'll update the entity guide, we'll do trainings, we'll still communicate with you so that you know what that's going to look like.
COBRA is, important for the employees that no longer qualify for the coverage. We talked, one of the examples was a divorce and ex-spouse. It's important to make sure that you are providing written notification to those that qualify for COBRA. It's based on a life event. So depending on what type of life event it is, they could have the option to pick up COBRA coverage anywhere from 18 to 36 months. Now, they do have to pay the premium. The premium is 102%. 100% is the premium and 2% is the admin fee. So, make yourselves available. Make sure the employees have this information, that need the information. Sometimes it's a confusing process for them, so it's always good to keep that line of communication open for any assistance they may need. The record keeping portion, we've touched on that off and on throughout this presentation. You're going to have the mini 834 form that Shannon demonstrated. You're going to have to keep copies of those mini 834 forms just in case there's an event where we have to go back and say, wait a minute, last week you had this change on it, this week you have this change, you know, and questions may arise. Like Shannon said, you know, maybe there was something that changed within 1 week. We would like to be able to go back and review that, have historic data in order to make sure that we're providing the coverage the way that we want to. So because it is electronic, you know, maybe make yourself a little folder on your desktop that's labeled Mini 834, and everyone that you submit, you just save it in there, or however works best for your entity. Also the enrollment forms or change forms, I know you had mentioned you have a change form for just the address. Those that are scanned and uploaded to the FTP site, you may also want to create another folder or find another system in order to save those as well. That way, if we have any questions, we can always go back and review. Okay, look, this is what they did. The supporting documentation, I had a question during the break. Do we need to keep the supporting documentation? Yes. The best time to get it is at new hire. If you hire an employee that wants his whole family covered, okay, do you want your spouse covered? Yes, I need the marriage certificate. Do you want your kids covered? Yes, I need the birth certificate. House those, you have to keep a copy of them because, again, like Mark mentioned earlier, we will be doing dependent audits and we'll need to see those documents. If you don't have them, we talked about that as well. Reach out to your employees. Let them know that you're updating your files and you need to get copies of that documentation in their files. If you have a question, please let us know. You know, there's all types of different forms and you know, documents out there. We'll be more than happy to review them with you or give you some kind of support on it. The next thing is the biggest thing is the reconciliation of your payments and your payment discrepancies. What we're going to do is you need to understand first that every payment that's made or every payment that's requested is subject to reconciliation. We need to make sure that we're getting paid correctly, we're billing correctly, we're charging correctly. Everything that has to do with payment, we need to make sure that we're doing that correctly and timely. So invoices are sent out. They're going to be sent out with rosters. Make sure you take advantage of that tool. Check the rosters. Make sure that you are paying for the employees that you're supposed to be paying for. If there's some kind of discrepancy, reach out to us. That way we stay on the same page because throughout this process, even though sometimes it seems a little daunting, communication is going to be the key for us to make it a smooth process and to iron out any complications that we may find. If there is not a roster connected to an invoice that you receive, you need to make sure that when you submit that payment, you submit a roster with it. That way, whoever you're submitting the payment to understands who you're paying for. Now, if there are any adjustments that need to be made because there's a discrepancy in the information between the rosters, please talk to us. We will be making those adjustments in accordance with the entity administration guide or administrative guide. So, we want to make sure that everything is done, as correct as possible with that. Now, the payment of premiums, again, we go back and forth with this. We touch on it here and there because there's so much information with it. But on the next slide, you'll see that there is an employer section and an employee section. The employer section just touches on how, you submit that to us. The city of Albuquerque, you'll be submitting your medical premiums, Davis Vision, Delta Dental, all the other providers have different ways of submitting that. That may or may not change depending on what their updates look like. The employees, you need to just make sure that their payroll deductions are corresponding with the plan that they're on. That keep up with the plan changes in premium, again, during open enrollment, that sort of thing. And There will be times, I'm sure, that your employers will come to you because they received a claim in the mail saying that they owe some information. Appeals are handled between the provider and the entity based on the entity agreement. So they're handled on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes it's a claim denial that they didn't know was going to get denied. Sometimes I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios that it could be. So that's why they're handled on a case-by-case basis. If you need help with anything, if you have questions, you just want another set of eyes on it, please feel free to reach out to either your provider or your account manager, which is one of us. That way we can help you with that.
Hoping you've actually all already been in our system. Has everyone done that at some point? Those that are processing. Some of you submit an electronic eligibility file, which is great, so you don't need to be in there as much, but you should still have your access. Others may submit enrollment forms to us, which is fine. We will do processing for you. Otherwise, if you hadn't heard this before, our system is a real-time system. So if you go in and update with putting in a new eligible person, terming, adding, making a change, dropping a dependent, anything you do within our system will be real-time. As soon as you submit update or submit, it will be reflected in the system. Even if it's a future effective date, a retro term date, it will be reflected. I'll explain at some point. There is a timing within each month. Generally, if you think of the 15th of the month that you put something in our system, it will be reflected on your next month's invoicing. Okay? Should you miss that date, and sometimes it fluctuates, it might be the 17th, the 18th of the month. We actually have a billing calendar that I've sent out before, I can always send again, that tells you this cutoff date, it'll be reflected on your next invoice. With the key understanding is it is accurate in the system. It may not show on your next invoice if you missed that cutoff date, but it will be accurate. So if you need to term a person, no claims will be processed and so forth. Okay? When I mentioned a couple of you that do a eligibility file that's sent to us electronically, you still have access to go into the system, make a manual change, because you may not submit a file for another week or two. You can make that update immediately. If you've ever had a member call you from the dental office, they say, I'm not insured. If there's an issue, you're actually able to go in there immediately. I usually say, give the dentist's office 5 minutes. You go into the system, update it, that will be reflected immediately on the dental office's side. They can see that that's been corrected now. I mean, should it be that it's an accurate fix? They can proceed right to services. Because if you've ever heard someone say, I can't proceed, you're not eligible, you can fix that immediately. Dear. Okay, once you log in, you get this general screen. There are a few typical things that, first of all, you'll ever do in the system. Again, process or change any enrollment, look up a member to making sure they're in the system. You should be getting sent your invoice or an email that says your invoice is ready, but you can go in here and actually pull it also. And we were talking about subscriber listings. We do not mail out a subscriber listing, but you were able to go in here and pull it and view it. And at least every 2 to 3 months, you should really be reviewing that subscriber listing to see who you are paying for. Okay? Another item is overage dependence. We notify you if a dependent is coming up on an age 26 maximum. Like at the end of this month, we would send out notice if there are any dependents that are coming off in August, their birth date is in August, that they're going to end at age 26, you get that notification to be able to go in here and view who it is. Okay? It's a nice trigger to remember because generally it's all your benefits that are coming off at age 26. So if you're not receiving it directly from someone else, it's a handy tool to refer to each of your benefits, your vision, your medical, and so forth. There's some great help tools in here and so forth. So many of you, like what I do, once you click on the Benefit Manager, there's inquiry, add, update, family enrollments. These are things you'll quite often deal with, okay? So perhaps you want to look up a member. We're going to do an inquiry. I think Linda volunteered.
Yes.
If I may use your social.
52553.
Will you be writing this down unless you're putting me as a
Yeah,
beneficiary?
nobody write down. Remember, you have to be protected here.
But a beneficiary, I'll give it to you again. 0412.
Oh, did I type it wrong?
52553.
I did 526. Sorry. 525
53. 0412.
0412.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, again, this is my access. So when I'm looking up someone, I pull up in our system for New Mexico all Linda Garza's, okay? So I have to select, in this case, of course, it's under your client or group number, the 2517. You will only see your members when you're searching. So when I look and you give me a name, John Smith, I may have to ask for at least a date of birth because God only knows it'll see too many records to pull up. But for you, it should work, okay? So when it pulls up the system, name, socials, addresses, all covered dependents, active or inactive. For instance, she had one dependent inactive, okay? With effective dates, all right? Normally you can make, quite often people ask about, I need an ID card, I'm traveling or I have a child out of state, I want them to have a card. From here you can print an ID card, okay? Versus actually you or having the member call us and say, I would like to have, it's kind of a welcome letter and there's a punch out on the bottom. They're generic ID cards. We do not list socials. We just indicate the name and the group number. But again, they're otherwise generic. It's our claims address and phone number. Just a general reminder, you don't have to have an ID card when you're seeing our contracted dentist. It's all under you or your employee's name and social and date of birth. All their dependents are under that. We don't issue separate dependent name ID cards. Okay? Our standard is we send out 2. Whether you're single or you have a family of 10, the punch out on the bottom is 2. If you need more, you can always ask for. But generally, I like to tell everybody, remember, you don't have to do a card. Okay? So, what comes up sometimes, you can click on active. It'll show going back to what date. This view history is a very handy little tool. Quite often you'll say, I know I put Jane in the system, but she's not showing. This will tell you when it was processed. Like on this case, even though it's back to 2012, 6/18. Oh, they're not on my July invoice. You may have missed that July run of the subscriber listing and invoice. Just know this is when it was put in. This is when they were effective. Over here actually tells you an ID, who put that member in or who made the change. You would each, those of you that are selected for your entities, would have a login ID. That's what will show here. You know it was processed, okay? So quite often I do hear, you missed that timing. Yeah, you're waiting a whole nother month to see on an invoice a change by your numbers of insureds or your subscriber listing showing the name on it. That is why, because of this cutoff date. okay? So again, all of the info is here. So if you had a member that called you directly versus reaching out to us, why isn't so-and-so covered? You first of all view the eligibility. Then it may take your own research in terms of what happened here. Did we miss it on a form? Whatever was happened. Because ideally, all of this can be fixed by you. You cannot go back beyond 90 days in our system. Like if you wanted somebody back to January 1st, our system will not let you process that. It'll only go back 90 days. So then it becomes an exception. Do we need it all the way back? What will always happen generally if you're missing anyone, they're obviously in the dentist office. They've gone for their first visit and it's discovered someone's not covered. Okay? That's when this comes up all the time. All right? Again, it can be fixed. There's the decision of, do we go back to the original date it should be? I'm telling you that if you put in a person within the 90 days, you will resolve the immediate issue of getting them covered. If you have to wait because logically you want to go back to the accurate date, what happened? Why did we miss it? That kind of thing. But the system will let you make any change back to the 90 days. Okay? Again, I can't make an add or a change because I don't have that eligibility, because otherwise every client would probably send me all of their enrollments to process. And I would never be here to talk to you. So, adding a member, that works on an individual basis. If you have a single person, just click add. And then it'll let you put in, there are required fields to fill in everything, okay? If you have people with dependents, click on family enrollment. That will let you add all of the dependents at the time that you're processing it. If you were to click on this, it will let you add a dependent, but it's like one at a time. So do the family issue, okay? Client benefits, these are, this will let you pull up in this case, because again, it's my access, you will pull up your own. But it'll be yours, your group ID, like each of you as entities have a subgroup number assigned to you. It actually gives you a description of all the benefits. If you were to click on something, it will tell you what's included under diagnostic. Now, we have the summary benefits for you. So you may have that and you're just looking at that. But this you can actually go in and look. If you need to, you're trying to answer a question maybe for a member, you can see how they're paid, and if you click on each one, what is covered under that. It's just a helpful tool built in for you. Like I say, you may not access this all the time. You have your summary benefit. It's kind of easier to glance at, but this is built in for you. Just so you know, too, I'm just going to click on it, but if you view transactions, when you put in your ID and so forth, sometimes you're caught off, you're inputting a few members. You got distracted, somebody came in, and how often does that happen? That it needs a question answered, and you forgot where you left off. You can actually click on summary of coverage changes that will tell you what was recently processed. Which member, you click on it, what did I do? I input the member and so forth. So that is something that's available in there. That's usually when you're doing a lot of processing. Help that a lot of people don't use, but I'm telling you is one of your best friends. All these things you can click on to answer a question about, there's the demonstration. I gave you in your green folders a printout of kind of the simple things you can change within the system. It's basically a lot of the items that you're looking at here, but there's a demo in there that can answer questions. Like, this won't let me go forward. Oh, the demo has told me I missed something that I must fill out. Viewing the benefits, coverage is type. Tells you how to add numbers. I mean, always you can reach out to them, you can reach out to us. I have in your green folders, one side of the flap has a card, group administration. They are your angels in terms of, they do this all the time. You can reach out, somebody will answer the phone. They will walk you through how to make a change, or like, this won't let me do this. They're walking through with you. They can answer those questions for you. I had somebody the other day said, I can't log in. 5 minutes later, somebody responded going, I called, walked her through it, everything's fine, okay? You can actually pull up, I don't know how often you want to do this, a directory. You select what network. Your plan is PPO. Select the state, New Mexico, and you can click on a county and select what county and print out a PDF version of a directory if you need it. Okay? Or within a specific 3-digit zip code kind of thing. You know, I usually like to say, you can address your members to go to the website. They don't have to log in, but they can search and find a dentist. But it's there for you just in case. Now and then I've had to call somebody's out of state, or their dependent's out of state. Yes, the member can go in and look up, but you can go in and look up any state you want and pull up providers in that area. So it's a helpful tool. Next thing, and again, this will look a little different for you, but is billing. There's non-consolidated and consolidated. Most of the time you will do non-consolidated. And I'm just going to go ahead and pull up. .001 is for the city itself. You can put in a from month date. What if you need a copy of an invoice, something was skipped perhaps. I need May's invoice. I don't need them all. You can put in May 1 to May 31, okay? Or from date, if I just put in 1/1 of 19 and hit submit, it's going to bring me every invoice for January through July, okay? But right now, I'm just going to put in July. You do not have to have the slashes in there. So your invoices come up like this. Run date. Because I picked up, it's only this group. A lot of times if I said all, because I can search all, PIN can search all, and so forth, it would list every subgroup. But in this case, and there would be two things. There would be current month, only see that month, or view all reports on the right side. But I selected this. Most of you have seen the invoices, but this is where you can pull up the subscriber list. Probably takes a little bit because there's a lot of people. Alphabetical. Last 4 digits. And the level of coverage. It doesn't list all dependents. Single, with a spouse, with one child or children, and the premium rates, okay? This is your backup support, like when you're looking. Some of you that are smaller, this is so easy to look at because you're pulling up 15, 20 people or one, I don't know. But you can always see, this is who we're paying for, okay? When it comes to billing and premium payments, ideally we like paying it as billed, because what our system does is make auto adjustments. If you term a member and you don't pay for them, our system doesn't know you didn't pay for them. It's going to generate a credit automatically on your next invoice. In other words, this is July, so if you term them now, you wanted them termed July 1, if you were to input it now, your August invoice is going to reflect a 1 month's credit. What you have to be careful of is do not take those credits if you've already not paid. Okay? And it works the opposite if you're paying in advance for a member or they're not showing on here. Oh, this member was effective July 1, but they're not here. I'm going to submit another month's premium. We don't know that. Yes, we're going to get your payment, and then we have to kind of balance it all out. It should work itself out because if it's done correctly, the premium payments are going to balance out and you're going to be up to date and no problems. But this is your handy tool, the subscriber listing. Some of you that are paying as what you strictly are covering for that month, that is fine, but we need that backup. Talking about a subscriber listing, or you submit something to us that says we're terming this person. When you submit your payments, a check goes to like a lockbox. Okay? Goes to, I think it's a Chicago address. That's just processed through as a payment. If it's not as billed, where do we put that money? How do we apply the money? So eventually, some of you get into, we're calling an audit process where we need to know who you were paying for because your premiums aren't balancing out kind of thing. So always let us know, not with your premium check, but submitting it into our group administration. They can make sure everything's done and balanced out properly for your premiums. Okay? But this is a key thing you'll look at in terms of now I want to go back.
Right, the second to last tab on the top.
Yeah, where are we?
Far to the right, there, you can mix that one
Where am I? I may need your help. Can you see here where I
on.
am?
See.
Oh, there I am. Yeah, well, I'm getting light reflection, so I think it's that one, right?
Yeah.
The ones in the left.
There you go.
Okay. So, but again, you can pull up your invoice. Your invoice will always be a PDF version. In other words, you are not to be adjusting that invoice. You cannot. You can pull up the others in a PDF or an Excel version, especially if you're trying to do an audit. So. But again, that is one of the most handy things you'll go in and look at is the billing in case you need a copy of an invoice. Okay? Some of you send in a check if you're desiring. You can send in an ACH payment. You can even set it up yourself on the system this way. You can do an auto draw, or, which most people don't like doing, or just that you are logging in your account information and this is how you're going to submit your payments through an automatic ACH. Okay? Where are these? You see where it is? There it is. Come on. Where's my mouse? There it is. I mentioned overage dependents. You will get an email from us if we have you set up as an email contact to notify anytime you have those dependents that are turning age 26. Again, it generates at the end of the month, so at the end of July, you'll get a notification if anyone in August is turning 26. You'll get an email and you can go in here and pull up the overage dependent notice. Who was affected? Okay? We've had it built into the system that we auto-term these dependents. But just so that you know, and when we do notify you, we also notify the member. So in that case, especially in age 26, that gives the clue of, oh, we're going to have to send out COBRA notification for that dependent because they've just had a qualifying event, they lost coverage. This is a nice tool for you. Don't worry if you didn't get one. No one was turning age 26. Okay, we only send them when necessary. Those are really your main things within the system you're going to deal with. So, for those of you, or maybe you don't have access, or someone should in your team, you have 2 or 3 people, I would say you can reach out to your account manager person. You can send it to me, because right now I would have to get someone to register for you to get that access. Down the line, we may change that and make it easier, but for now, that's the way it works. But for email notifications and so forth, I've got to know either through them or directly who I have to put in the system to send these. I have to register the email to make sure you get these notifications properly. Okay? Or just to add an update. Somebody's not in your department anymore, and we need to remove them and delete their access and so forth. Okay? So I'll ask that of you to make sure we connect through your account manager, through the city, to let them know who should be getting notifications and have access in the system. Okay? But last reminder, it is real time. You can fix something right away if you need to for a moment.
So what we're going to talk about today is going to be like 30,000 feet. But when we get into with each of your locations, because there's some variance in plan offerings, there's some variance in billings, we want to make sure that we really give you all the time to be specific to how you need to operate. Good? So Rachel will help with the eligibility. There's a web platform. Again, depending on how you're doing your billing, you may have some different functionality, so she'll go through that with you. She can help as far as claims assistance, leveraging. Asia Grimm is going to be your national account team leader for disability claims. So when we do some larger groups, we have a national account model specifically for disability claims. Disability claims tend to be heightened and a little bit more complex sometimes. So we've really found through the model, we have a single team leader that she has short-term disability and long-term disability benefit specialists that report to her. So the team is collaborating. You will become familiar, there's usually about 3 short-term and 2 or 3 long-term. You'll become familiar with those contacts. They'll become familiar with the nuances of each of the entities, as well as any of the city of Albuquerque's. She will be involved in the day-to-day. If there's anything that we're finding trend-wise, we'll be able to work back with your team to let you know, hey, we're finding that maybe employees are reporting a completely different entity name that maybe we just aren't aware of, right? Myself, Lindsay Wolf, my role as a claims consultant, I support our entire Western region. I kind of speak to it as I'm the in-between with our claims team and our sales, brokers, employers. So I literally sit about 10 feet away from Asia and all of her benefit specialists. I get involved when I like to say it's the macro versus the micro. So I'm at the 30,000 feet, and if there's an individual claim, Asia's the one getting involved. And then we have Katie, and since Katie's here, I'll let her speak to her role.
Hi everyone, I'm Katie. So I'm actually out of our Dallas office, and I work directly with the city and the city's broker, and I've actually, I think, spoken to, if not all of you, the majority of you, collecting information on the back end and making sure we have the plan info, enrollment material, just to make sure that it's a smoother transition from the current carrier to mutual. So.
Any questions about that? Like I said, the plan is Rachel's going to be reaching out with each of the entities that we can dig more into the individual concerns, billing, web portal administration. Okay. So what I'm going to go through real quick, and is it just this tab down here, Linda? Oh, perfect. Is it going to go? There we go. So we're just going to go through from a really high level the claim process for the short term, the long term, and the life. So we put out a process flow chart out there. It's incredibly detailed, but what's going to be important for you to know and for your employees' experience, There's going to be some variance in the methodology. We have telephonic support where the employee is going to call in. We have some file data that we're working on having built out. So oh, did I go too far? Sorry. There we go. So the short term is going to essentially be a notification from the employee. When we talk about short-term disability, we look at it that there's 3 portions. We need employee information, we need employer information, and we need physician information. Any one of those 3 points gives us notification. It starts our timetable process. So if your employee calls in on Monday and has an intake with our customer service team, the benefit specialist is going to review the information that we have and make additional follow-up contact to them by Friday. By Friday, we're saying either, hey, we have everything, here's your decision, here's the approval period, here's how payment process works. If we don't have everything, we're letting them know, here's what we're still missing, here's what we've done to get it, and here's what you can do to help us. From experience in disability claims, it's not you holding up the process. It's not usually the employee. It's a lot of the times getting physician information. HIPAA is a great thing to protect our personal health information, but I will tell you from 10 years ago when I was managing claims, I could call a physician's office and say, hey, I'm with Mutual of Omaha, we're their disability carrier. Can you let me know what the diagnosis is, when their last treatment is, when the next treatment is? I could get it all over the phone. Today, if we're calling to verify a delivery, we might get some pushback. So that's where we try and set that from when we receive it to the 4 business days. Having that conversation with the employee is super crucial to us. The communication, because you have someone who's sick and we realize that this is their income replacement. We have some flexibility, and again, I think with each entity, it may be a little bit different. Typically, we will notify you upon a decision. You may have some specific requirements, or just knowing the nature of your employees, that you're gonna want maybe additional notification if we're pending for something, and we'll work through that with your locations. Anything on the short term? The unpleasant piece, and again, I want to reiterate the communication. When a claim is not approvable, there's a phone call. I can't tell you how much the mantra of use the phone, use the phone, use the phone is in our culture. It is not unusual that we would call someone and say, hey, we've reviewed everything, we're denying, we have lack of medical evidence, we have the records from Dr. Jones, we have the records from Dr. Johnson, and no matter how many times you've spoken to that individual, they're like, well, what about Dr. Smith? I didn't know Dr. Smith existed. So then it's an opportunity for us to make sure that we're making the right decision, not just processing and moving on to the next claim, right? In the process, if we identify that someone's going to need the long-term disability, we make an internal transition. So that process actually flags a task in our system to the short-term disability benefit specialist to say we're coming towards the end of benefits, we need to review if long-term is appropriate. If we already have identified at that point that maybe it's a poor prognosis, we know they're not going to return to work, we're going to make the referral for a long-term disability benefit specialist to start that review. Being in the national account model that I just mentioned, it is someone that the short-term disability benefit specialist works with on a regular basis. So there's some communication that goes on with those individuals being in the same team. Hey, I'm getting ready to send this claim over for you. Here's what's been going on. Is there anything else that you think you need to jump on? Is there anything that we need to request additional? The biggest thing for you as an employer and for the employees, it's not a new claim form. You don't have to remember when they're transitioning. We make all of those communications and outreaches. So for you as the employer, the big things you're gonna see, you're gonna get an email that essentially is, we have John Smith is transitioning to LTD. we're going to ask about whether or not he's been terminated. The reason being, we do utilize return to work services. If that relationship's already terminated, we want to make sure that we're working appropriately with your entities and your HR. Also, we know there's a potential there could be some pension opportunity, there may be some other benefits they're eligible for. So you're going to get a short form of some general questions for us to understand where we're at in the long-term process. We'll also make a request if we haven't already obtained a job description during the short-term disability process, we'll ask for that in the long term. Anything new here? Anything out of the comfort zone as far as the disability? Okay. So the life claims process. We are currently working on, and you guys will have in your packets, there's a contact sheet. Right now, we've provided for you a general number. What we're working on and through the setup process is you're going to have a dedicated number for all of the employees or any beneficiary to also call into to file life claims. So there's going to be, whether they call in, we can also accept there's an email and fax submission of the form. We're going to have that dedicated phone line. Our customer service rep is going to do the intake and obtain some general information from the beneficiary, help them understand we're going to need a death certificate. If there's an accident involved, making sure they understand you may potentially need toxicology, autopsy information. And then also, if it's an opportunity, if they need a funeral home assignment, we can have those conversations. If you've never had the unfortunate experience of having to go through that with a family or a beneficiary, if they don't have funds readily available, funeral homes are usually pretty much like, give us a check, or they allow a sign off of a funeral home assignment. So essentially the beneficiary is saying, we know we have a life policy, I'm gonna sign over whatever the cost of services are to you to be paid first. So if there was a $20,000 life benefit and we get a funeral home assignment that the funeral home services were $10,000, we'll issue the $10,000 to the funeral home, and then the remaining goes to the beneficiary. At no time will we divulge to a funeral home what the benefit available is. That's for the protection of your beneficiaries and employees. The last thing we want is a $10,000 service becoming 15 because 15 is available, right? Once we have a decision, we're going to contact the beneficiary again to let them know that we've resolved it, and we'll make that payment to them. So when we, like I said, you do have some contact sheets right now that have our general numbers. We expect once we are doing the admin calls coming up, we're thinking around July 29th, and again, Rachel's going to be in contact with each of you, that we'll have an update with that information so you can give that out to your employees directly.
I'm Sam Garcia with Davis Vision here in the Albuquerque office. For those of you that during open enrollment, you probably met Kathy and Mariana. They were doing all the open enrollment meetings at all the city of Albuquerque and all the entities. I attended a few as well. But so Louis is going to be looking us up. Louis is our IT individual here in Albuquerque. By the way, we do have a regional office here in Albuquerque, so if you have any need for local service or escalated issues that come to your attention, please feel free to call us here in the Albuquerque office. Myself, Kathy, Mariana are always available. So what we've done today is we're going to hook up to a live WebEx demo on our benefit manager, very similar to what Delta did, and our e-bill system. So for those of you that will need to do eligibility checks, enrollment verifications, changes, additions, deletions, etc., adding information to any of the employees in our system, the e-bill and benefit manager system allows you to do all that. So Nesta from our home office, who's the team leader in the eligibility and enrollment and billing department, is going to be leading us through this WebEx demo. And I always get nervous when we do these live, because I've seen some of these live just not go so well based on what internet connections are going on out there. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed as as we get hooked up here. With that, I think Linda will conclude.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much. And again,
Thank
you can reach out directly, or you can reach out to any of your account managers, and we can get that information, access, training set up for you, with you, if you'd like us to be with you to do this. Again, we are wanting and desiring to work much more closely with each one of the entities. So please reach out to us.
Hi everyone, great to see you. Just as a reminder, the city did an employee survey to see what benefits they might be interested in adding, and there were a couple. The critical illness and accident were on the list, so they did an RFP, and we're happy to be partnering with you all on those two products. Thank you for the city very much for your partnership in marketing the new products. I think for the first time enrollment for new benefits, it went really well. Thank you also to the other entities that are participating right now. So thanks so much. I know you have a lot going on with medical and changes with different carriers. Just for those entities, we are reaching out individually for billing and getting you online. And the bills are ready. They're available on Employer View now, which if you use that portal before, you're familiar with that. But we'll be contacting you this week or next if you have any questions on that. I did bring some paper versions, but they're also available online of a nice flyer in terms of if someone needs to file a claim. It's just a phone number to call or a website. But I have paper copies, and then I also have a few paper copies of the port and the port forms if someone wants to take the coverage if they leave employment. So that's available online as well, but I have some papers on here for you to review if you have any questions. In terms of that question, Linda, about the benefits being the first of the month, for these particular voluntary benefits, their employee benefits, that is how they are filed in the states across every state in the U.S., and it's very common for these benefits to be filed that way. So benefits are available for use the first of the month following enrollment. In terms of when you take payroll, that's very flexible, just like it was for your other voluntary benefits. We realize we don't expect you to go retroactive to collect premiums, just as a heads up that I know that's a question that's come up. Is there?
Well, I'll keep it very brief. I'm not going to go into any kind of a demonstration today, but just wanted to thank you all for open enrollment. We are very pleased with how open enrollment played out. The Albuquerque team, the girls, and our customer service team, I met with them this last week to talk about lessons learned, and we had very few issues after July 1 within the customer service system. So things we feel are smooth, and we're working through a few little kinks, but for the most part, we're very happy with how things have rolled out. Our customer service team does get some calls about prescription questions, and so they have a direct link to the Express Scripts customer service team. They have what they call like a backdoor policy, and so if we get a call from one of your employees that is having issues and they call us for whatever reason about their pharmacy, our customer service team is linking directly with Express Scripts to work through the issue on behalf of that employee. So I think we have a good process as far as helping out to make sure people get what they need. ID cards, remind your employees with their new ID cards to present their new ID cards at their point of care. Sometimes providers won't ask for your ID card, but they'll know you've been going to them for some time. So they might not ask for it, but still present it because the product ID numbers are different and they're changed to reflect a self-funded account. Your member numbers are the same, but there are new product IDs, so we want to make sure those claims get processed correctly. So along those lines, if an employee gets a bill or something says that a claim wasn't paid, have them call customer service right away, because they can look up the claim and say, oh, they tried to bill it to the wrong product ID, and so adjustments can happen immediately if they call customer service. So discard the old ID cards. Open enrollment, I don't know how many times I ask people, let me see your ID card. They want to know what plan they're on, and they pull out like 5 or 6 ID cards, and then which ones are the right ones? I go, well, you can throw all these away and just keep this one. So people just feel like they hang on to those ID cards. So tell them to discard the old ID cards. If somebody needs a new ID card, just tell them to call customer service and we can get a new ID card sent out to them. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have the customer service number?
I do. It's 923-7787. And that is the customer service team that's dedicated solely to this account. 923-7787. That number is on their ID cards. The Express Scripts customer service number is also on their Presbyterian ID cards. So if they turn their card over, they'll see that they can reach the customer service team with Express Scripts as well through that. I also want to continue to offer, we've had a few of you take us up on this, but if you need a benefits refresher post-open enrollment, or you feel like you're getting a lot of questions and you have a staff meeting or you want to invite me in, I'm happy to come out. I might even bring the City of Albuquerque rep with me, like we did with Belen, to kind of help out with some things there. But I'm happy to come out and do a benefits refresher for your employees and explain benefits, help them understand how the plan works. Just give me a call. You have my information. It's in the benefit booklet, and I can come out and do that with you and just get them to help them understand their benefits. The gym as well. We didn't have any issues with the gym. There were a few people that wanted to be, they were more concerned about the gym benefit than the medical benefit in some cases. So customer service can assist them with that, getting them into the right gym or getting their gym ID number. So if you run into that, just give us a call. Remind your employees, if you have any employees that are expecting, that baby benefit that we have for them is available, and expectant mothers or expectant spouses that are enrolled on the plan can have access to $150 in gift cards for utilizing the baby benefit. They just go to the website, the My Pres account, and there's a baby benefit icon that they click on, and that's how they can start getting themselves enrolled. But it's $150 in gift cards that they get for 3 phases of the program. So remind your employees, or if you know of an employee that's expecting, ask them about the baby benefit they've enrolled. If they haven't, send them that way, because it's really a great program, not just because of the gift cards, but we're making sure that we're properly caring for these expectant mothers so that these babies come into the world, healthy and have been well cared for. So it's a great benefit, and we want to continue to promote it. A customer service, again, if you have employees that get a bill, get a claim, they have a question about a provider, they need a provider, customer service can help with all those questions. And just send them to us and we'll take care of them. You've heard about the new Pres now, our new 24-hour ER urgent care. Has anyone experienced the clinic yet? So we're hearing great feedback. If you go look us up on the internet, there's a lot of good feedback with it, but it's the first 24-hour urgent care ER facility. Our facility is located on Paseo del Norte in San Pedro, and you present at the front desk, and they make a determination if you need to go into the urgent care side or into the ER side based on what you're experiencing. And then the applicable co-payments would apply for that. But it's 24/7. They do not need an appointment to go there. And we do have 2 more coming. We have one opening up in the fall that's going to be in the Coors area. And then there's an additional one opening up next year that's going to be on the west side of Albuquerque. So that is exciting. There's on-site imaging. They do, I don't like to promote it, but they do, if you have spouses that have other insurances, they do accept most other insurances as well. But it's something it's not available today. Our existing urgent care centers are still functioning the way they have functioned. The existing urgent care centers, you do still need the appointment. You can call in. You don't have to have an appointment, but it's advised that you make an appointment. And you can go to the website and see which urgent cares have slots available at any time. And it's a very easy portal to get into, so you can access that through our system. The last update that I want to give you is an update on the mobile health center. Our unit has been sick and down, and we apologize that we haven't been able to come to the sites that we've been normally going to every month. But we are getting good news. They are making great discoveries, and we are going in for one more major repair starting the end of this week or early next week. And we've been told that the goal is to try and get the mobile unit back up and running before the end of the month. So fingers crossed. Pray for our unit. I know we don't have any control over those types of issues, but we run that unit hard, and it's a unit that's intended to be on the highway. It's not a unit that's intended to be in the city and stopping and going as much as it is, and that's kind of what's causing some of these blockages. But we have gotten good news, and we think that they have made the discovery of what's going on with it. So we are hoping that the schedule will be back to normal in August. And you all know where the team is seeing patients right now. They're in City Hall. I know it's not convenient for most of you to go to City Hall, but fingers crossed that we'll be back up running for August. Any questions for me? Yes.
I think I looked last week on my press where it says print your insurance card.
Yeah,
That was the old one.
That's the new one. You can print a copy of your new ID card there as well. And if you do need a new ID card, just call customer service. Did you all get your new ID cards with your new little benefit kits? Yeah. Okay. Don't throw those benefit kits away, because those are very thorough as far as your benefits. They're highlights of your benefits, and they're good to have. So if you need another one, call in and they can send you another one if you need something for the kids. But any other questions for me? All right. Thank you.
Thank you all for your commitment and your commitment to communication on this. I mean that really sincerely. The past couple of weeks, I think the biggest call that we got in our office, probably surrounding Express Scripts, but the biggest call we got in our office was, wow, we went to Walgreens, we went to the pharmacy, and we couldn't get our prescription. The first question we would ask all of them, which card did you use? They all used the wrong card. It was all a Presbyterian card. So then the second question was like, well, did you get your Express Scripts card? And I'm just referring to city employees. I'm not even referring to your books. All of them like, I didn't know anything about this. Nobody told me that we would move to Express Scripts. And so then we went through the process with them. Well, did you check your mail? Because that's where we sent the open enrollment book. That's where Express Scripts sent their cards. That's where Presbyterian sent their cards. Did you check your mail? No, I didn't check my mail. We don't look at the mail. Okay, did you check your email? Because we at the city, we sent you a direct email saying, hey, we switched benefits, stuff like that. Oh, I didn't see that email. Did you walk around the office at all? Because we established posters everywhere. We put posters everywhere about open enrollment meetings. Oh. So after about the fourth one saying, if you didn't check your email, if you didn't get it at home, if you didn't look around your office, it was pretty eye-opening to them saying, oh, I guess I should have read that other information out there. So like I said, that was the biggest calls that we got in our office. People just not even paying attention and reading their cards. So once again, sincerely thank you all. That was the biggest question that we got. I imagine, like I said, if you didn't send out emails, put posters and stuff like that, you really had to communicate verbally that the city is going through a change. So if they got that information, if they got their ID cards, kudos to you all. So the biggest thing I want your takeaways, remember to check your emails. We do send out a lot of emails here, and we're not trying to inundate you with information out there, but we want to be sure that we do communicate that information out to you. So check your emails often. Your account managers will be contacting you here shortly, specifically about information, making sure that you did understand what we presented today, if there was any changes that we need to make everybody aware of. Thank you again to all of our vendors out there. Like I said, with each of our vendors, they all have their own web platform, portal, different ways of enrolling, filing claims, stuff like that. So once again, I appreciate your attention for all that stuff there. And once again, if we can be that conduit of communication, please don't hesitate to contact any of us out there, and we'll make sure we get you into the right place out there. We're going to email you all the information, the administrative guides and stuff like that. I know you have some paper now, but this way you can store it electronically and try to eliminate sending out so much paper. And any changes that we do send out, we'll send out electronically. So, any questions for me before we break? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for your individual attention. To my team, thank you very much as well.